My name is William Hall. I am the son of two strong, smart, spirited people. Two strong, smart, spirited people that happened to be slaves. Now, why were they slaves? Because their parents were. And their parents before them. And how did that cycle start? It's amazing what could happen because of one boat trip. That's a piece of a monologue that I wrote 10 years ago. It was the first piece of theater I ever wrote, and I can't stand it. I laugh at my big old round beardless face, the fact that my head is tilted ever so slightly up, my goofy haircut, which I gave myself, and my big old round beardless face. Seriously, my beard is the only reason I can fake that I have a chin. But all vanity aside, there's so much I love about that video. But what I struggle most with is the writing. It starts right away when I equate being pulled from your home and forced into slavery as just a boat trip. And I don't know if it's because the world has changed or because I have, but I think of his story so much differently now. My name is Sampson, and I'm a theater maker. And when we make theater, what we're interested in is empathy, the human experience, the fine details that make up someone's character. If you were to watch the rest of that video, you would see me try and honor William Hall, the war hero. First black person, first Nova Scotian, third Canadian to ever win the Victoria Cross, the British military's highest award for bravery. It's inspiring. But what I wish I would have written more about was the man. I wish I would have written more about his life before the Victoria Cross. The fact that he was born free in Nova Scotia at a time when other black people here were still slaves. I wish I would have written more about his heroic deeds, but also about the horrors of war and the toll that must have taken on him. I wish I spoke about the fact that outside of war, he traveled the entire world and saw incredible things, and then after all that, he came home to Nova Scotia to serve his family and his community. Today, it is my real hope to give you a sense of the man and the complex world in which he lived. Just like we might if we were watching a play together. Lights fade dimly up. Lights fade dimly up to reveal a black man sawing thick, heavy pieces of lumber. He's strong, broad, moves intentionally. The lights continue to rise to reveal the scaffolding of a massive ship. A black boy balances on the top beam and runs from left to right, carrying a bucket of nails. He drops the nails mid-deck to a group of black men, speaks to them briefly. The man sawing calls to the boy, and he comes immediately, lowering himself skillfully down to land in front of the man. This is Jacob Hall, 35, William's father. He speaks with a Virginian accent, and he scolds young William for speaking to those men. Before William can respond, he explains that William has only known freedom. He was born into it. But that those men, they aren't free. They're still slaves. He explains that they can see them in church, help them when they can, but only when there aren't eyes around to notice. Son, it's too much of a risk for them and us. Lights shift. 30-year-old William stands at attention in his finest dressed uniform. Sitting in front of him is the admiral of the fleet and a panel of commanding officers. William recounts with precision the heroic events that led to the recommendation that he be awarded the Victoria Cross. Sometimes half shouting the "Yes, sirs! No, sir!" of a good soldier. His face is stoic. But with every new detail, we see behind his eyes the loss and cost and burden of war. His hand lightly begins to shake as he speaks of friends dying around him. His jaw tightly clenches as he remembers the fate of the prisoners. His chest tightens as he describes the damage and destruction on the mosque, the holy place of worship. And for a brief moment, thinks to his own place of worship back in Hansport. As the soldier stands at full salute, and the formal recommendation of the Victoria Cross is read out loud, we see behind his glistening eyes flickers of doubt. Hero, hero, hero. William thinks to himself, where does heroism end and survival begin? Lights shift. We're in a sitting room on a fine October day in Hansport, Nova Scotia in 1902. And old William Hall has just emptied the contents of a wooden cigar box onto the table with a clatter. On a watch chain is the Victoria Cross. It's nothing to have the cross now. They're thick as peas. It gives me an extra 10 pounds a year on my pension, which is the only reason me and my sisters are able to survive. Well, why not take the job? William had just told the well-dressed reporter in the corner that after winning the cross, he was offered a prestigious position in the seat of government at Whitehall in London, but that he refused. It's like I told him. I want to spend my days in the old place, land of my birth. Thank you very much for taking note of me. Lights fade to black. Thank you for allowing me to honor this Nova Scotia giant, William Hall, in my own way. To honor a complex life lived during enslavement, emancipation, and colonial expansion. To honor this great maritimer. That after a life traveling to places like Singapore, China, Russia, the Mediterranean, India, that William Hall decided to honor us by coming back here. By coming back home to the old place. Home to Scotia. What's more maritimer than that? Thank you for listening.